I'd like to call the meeting to order, and if I could have a motion to suspend the meeting for the speaker and the post-everlasting ceremony following that.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Kerry, if you could come up and introduce yourself and tell us about your program.
Do you have a microphone?
I have a microphone. Can you hear me? That's the question.
No.
No?
The people here.
Okay. So hi, I'm Keri. So give you a little background. My name is Keri Wegner, and I am here to talk about Path to Healing. Some of you might have heard about it. It is a program for military and veterans who have experienced trauma. And the reason I am someone who wanted to do this program is because I am a clinician, a therapist, a licensed mental health counselor who specializes in working with people with trauma. I came to learn more about military culture and veterans and what they experience, and it made me go towards that direction, and that's how this program came to life. This is a holistic program, which means that not one size fits all to me. So we offer things like horsemanship, which is groundwork with horses. We offer songwriting, and we offer things like yoga or tai chi. We offer what am I missing? Oh, the discussion groups, which are really counseling groups. For people, I want the veterans to come with whatever their issues are they want to talk about, right? So if it's about having difficulty with their family or transitioning to their new job or just feeling depressed or what have you, that's what the discussion groups are all about. So we start in the beginning kind of saying, where are you at right now? What's your goal for today? And then we go on with our day's program, which also includes some sort of creative art, such as drawing or painting, or sometimes it might include cooking. I've taken the cooking part out for now because of COVID, but it will come back in at some point. Usually they alternate art and cooking. So that's, in a very short nutshell, that's the program. So the program is made to be a 4-week-long program that you pick 2 days. So the main day is Saturday. We made it that way because when people were interested in the beginning, a lot of people were in the reserves and they were working full-time and they needed it to be on the weekends. So we have one horsemanship program that's offered on Friday evenings and a Saturday program for everyone. And then we have songwriting that's on Monday evenings. So we have a couple different options. And so we usually try to do it back-to-back, so we can have 4 weeks or 8 weeks, depending on the person's need. If someone needs to do a program for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, they can continue on. If they need to just do it for 4 weeks, then great, that's fine, you do it for the 4 weeks. There are other options offered, such as actual group counseling after you've finished the 4 weeks, which is a cognitive behavioral group, which basically helps you figure out what are you feeling, what are you doing behavior-wise, what are your thoughts that are maybe causing some problems or making them worse for you, or really adjustment is what we're talking about the most there. And also to take a look at, well, how is your family and friends, how are they looking at this? Because they also might be looking at things differently than you are, which could cause some communication problems, right? And I've heard even from some people who are in school getting their master's degree, right, they're functioning, but as a veteran, I've heard like one person I can tell you that told me, communication is just hard when you get out of the military. Just communicating to civilians was just a completely different ballgame than communicating with people in the military. And so even that was a transition, right? And I'm sure some of you can attest here, right? The transition of if you're somewhere in a combat zone and then you're transitioning here to civilian life, that in itself can be traumatic. Trying to figure out what your roles are again, am I taking the kids to school if you have kids? Am I doing these chores in the house? Am I, right? What is it you're in charge of? Because things might have changed while you were gone. Other people took over whatever your roles were. You might be looking for a job, you might be trying to get into college, so you might have all these different things that you're looking at that are not quite in place for you yet, right? Where the other people who've been here all along, right? Okay, everything's good. We know what we're doing. And don't get me wrong, not everyone who's a veteran, of course, has experienced trauma, and not everyone who's a veteran develops post-traumatic stress disorder or depression or anxiety from their trauma necessarily. However, that's what this program is for, not just if you've had post-traumatic stress disorder, but trauma can cause a lot of different issues. So it's for people transitioning from the military to civilian life, and it's for people who've experienced any kind of trauma, whether it was during military service or before or after military service. There are some studies out there, I couldn't quote it right now, but that actually say that there's a significant number of veterans who already experienced trauma before they ever went into the military. And some didn't even realize it. They might not have called it neglect or something in their childhood, but it was there. So that's significant because the more trauma you have, the more likely you are to develop something like post-traumatic stress disorder. I know military usually say post-traumatic stress, right? Take off the disorder because it makes it sound like there's something wrong with you, when we always say that post-traumatic stress is a normal reaction to the experiences you've had, right? So I invite you to ask some questions because you probably want to know a little bit about what's songwriting, what's horsemanship. Anybody have specific questions about what's what?
You're on Turnpike Street?
Well, that's an office administrative location. We usually hold our sessions at Holy Trinity Lutheran Church on Lincoln Street, but we might use the VFW. We might use some other locations, but that's the location we generally use.
So you mentioned briefly about the horsemanship program on Friday. Could you also
Thank you.
offer one on Wednesday?
Yes, depending on what season it is or what month it is. So Wild Hearts in West Bridgewater, I think some of you might be familiar with that program. Julie is wonderful. I love working with them. Their horsemanship program is not just horsemanship groundwork as in showing you how to lead a horse, how to maybe not even be holding on to the horse, but have the horse follow you and do obstacle courses and things like that. Theirs is really truly about mental health, so I really like that piece. They are only available May and June and September and October because they don't have a heated barn and they're not equipped for winter or summer programs. That is why we also have another program we work with, which is Winsome Riding Academy in Randolph. And right there, they are completely handicap accessible, which is good, and they have a barn, the door that closes, and heat. So they don't actually make it warm in there. You have to wear a jacket. They just make it warm enough so you can tolerate being there in the winter. But they are also great type of things they're doing. For instance, we have two gentlemen that are on walkers, I think you're really called roll leaders, and they all have wheels. And they can't do all the things that they would like to be teaching them to do. So you always start out with grooming with horsemanship. Eventually it leads to other things. And they can't do some of those other things because unless they got a wheelchair that had the right kind of wheels, right, they really can't do anything as far as guiding the horse and having the horse follow them. So there's one miniature horse there, Pixie, who has been trained to pull a cart. So they're actually going to start teaching them how, two gentlemen I'm talking about, how to drive the cart, right? So they're creative with finding other ways for people who cannot do what the rest of the people might do in the program. But they are fully handicap accessible as far as they have a ramp so you can actually get on the horse. They do riding there too. We don't offer that right now. They also have handicap bathroom and everything too. So everything is handicap accessible. So that's why we have the two horse programs. Now, Wild Hearts really focuses a lot on mental health, where Winsome Riding Academy isn't as focused on mental health. I add a few things in to make it more focused on mental health. For instance, like being mindful while you're with the animal and then picturing, okay, when you're done with Pixie and you're done grooming Pixie and you have a bad day, if you think about Pixie, what does it do for you? I've heard some people say that, you know, when I'm there and I'm doing whatever I'm doing there, like I'm not anywhere else. My mind is there with the horse, which can be really helpful for someone having some trauma issues or depression issues, right? So that is really great there. So obviously they're creative. They may not be completely focused on mental health there, but they are teaching you horsemanship skills, and you know, anybody's going to feel a bond with the animal. At least everybody I've noticed. Even one of them was a little afraid at first of Pixie, the miniature horse, but he's gotten better. Right? And so they have all shapes and sizes there too. They have miniature, they have ponies, which are actually smaller horses, and then they have the large horses. They only have one draft horse, which is the largest one there, Apollo, which is actually very gentle. You know, so people love, if you're going to ask me, people usually ask, horsemanship is what everybody loves the best, right? They love the horses and what they get out of that. So let me just tell you a little bit about some of the others. So songwriting, what's really neat about that is there's some studies out there that have been proven, there's some other programs that are out there with songwriting. So these studies have proven that collaborative songwriting does help reduce some PTSD symptoms. And so this could be really helpful. And so this is what it is. We have an instructor who sort of asks some questions about a timeline of your life, including some, whatever you did for being a veteran, like when you were in service, what did you do? And if you say, oh, I don't want to talk about that, that's fine, he's not going to push you. You know, you just get to figure out what you want to talk about. And then he kind of helps you put this into lyrics of, okay, I heard this and this and this, so let's arrange this a little bit differently. You know, let's figure out what words are musical, and kind of puts it together for you. And he always asks, what kind of music do you prefer? So if there's a certain genre you prefer, he's going to try to set the music to that whatever it is. So if you like country western, that's not his favorite, but he'll set it to country western, right? Whatever it is you love. If it's more jazz, he'll try to set it to jazz. And together we'll make this song. And if you can sing, then you can certainly do the singing. If you need someone else to sing for you, we get volunteers in to sing. The last person, he sang and played the guitar. So actually we had two versions. We had the participant who sang his own version, and then we had a different version with the guitarist who also sang. So it's a really fun experience, and actually that person has been waiting for us to offer songwriting again, so he can take it a second time. You are allowed, right, after you've taken it once and you've done the 4 weeks, you are allowed to take it again if you want to. If it helped you, we want to be able to offer it for you. And the other things like yoga or Tai Chi, most people know that yoga or Tai Chi, it's good for you physically, it's good for balance issues. You can do this at different levels, whether you have to do chair yoga, you can do chair yoga. If you can stand and do the poses standing, you can stand. With Tai Chi is meant for any age, whether you're 1-year-old or 90, to be able to do it, because they want you to do what you can do at your level. Like if they're doing a kick and you can't do a kick all the way, that's fine. If your kick is this, that's fine, right? If your kick is way up in the air, which I'm not going to demonstrate, that's fine, right? So both of these can be very helpful. Obviously for stress management, really, really helpful. For emotion regulation, for people who have problems with anger or depression, really, really helpful. So that's what that piece is about there. And cooking is just generally part of that holistic piece of trying to make sure people are taking care of themselves, right? Because you're not always taking care of yourself when you're not feeling your best. And even if you're not the one who does the cooking in the household, that's fine. Then you'll get some great recipes and you'll get free food. So that's the good thing about this program. It is free to participants, so it is solely based on fundraising. And I do appreciate the American Legion did donate to us once, and that was really appreciated. It helped us get our program finally going in the fall after COVID. Go ahead, did you have a question?
We're good.
You answered it. He was gonna ask how much it costs.
Donations, well, I was gonna ask. Okay.
What were you gonna ask about donations?
I was just gonna ask what you just said. Where you get your funding?
Yes, it's completely donations, grants. Actually, because we're a new program, it's pretty difficult to get grants because most people want you to be more established. So more donations than grants at this point, but at some point we'll be ready to get more grants. And we do have $4,000 coming in March 1st from the Easton Festival of Trees. So that was really nice, yeah. So it's very helpful. If you're wondering about cost, I don't have the exact numbers on me, but it's about a little over $10,000 per session if you're including the full horsemanship and songwriting as choices, and if you're also including 6 participants. So we don't always get the full 6 participants, sometimes we get 4. Right now there's 4 people waiting who were interested, and we did have to hold off again because of COVID. So what we're offering now is, not sure if we're going to start in April or May, we'll see what happens, but we are, at least while people are waiting, offering an online discussion group that will just be once a week in March, just an hour, so that if people are waiting for something to happen, then we can at least start talking to each other. I know not everybody will prefer that method, but it's better than having nothing. Obviously that method is much cheaper, right? You only have to pay the LMHC, which is me, who's running it, or and Zoom platform or whatever telehealth platform that's secure that we're using. That's all we have to pay for. So obviously we can pay for that, and that will be something that will keep people, with something to help them while they're waiting. What did I leave out?
Well, your funding for your charge, is it different levels there? Is that what you're talking about?
It's, well, basically the different horsemanship programs charge different amounts. if you have different amounts of people coming in, then, for instance, like the songwriting person charges a certain amount for 2 songs, and then when you do more songs, starts to charge a slightly different amount. He also copyrights the songs for everybody too. So that's what I mean when there's different costs involved, depending on how many. So for instance, I don't know if I should really say how much every program costs, but I'll say Winsome is per hour per person. So their cost there, depends on how many people you have. If you have 3 people, it's a certain amount. If you have 6 people, it's a certain amount. So the cost does vary a little bit.
Did I hear you say 10,000?
Yes.
Now, who would be paying that? The family of the person, or?
No, that's from the donations. That's what the donations do. And we don't take insurance or anything like that either for any of this. It's just pure donations. Donations, grants, whatever.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Did you have a question? Did you have a question?
Yeah, do you actually ride a horse, or is it just grooming?
No, you don't ride a horse. It's not just grooming, but it's all on the ground. You do not get on the horse. So I guess you could say people in the cart are going to be in the cart, but not on the horse. So yeah, it's basically the first thing you always do is groom the horse, learn how to get a relationship with the horse going. And they teach you all the brushes and all the things you're doing with the horse. And then the next thing is generally to lead the horse. And there are some other things that, like, for instance, Wild Hearts has a different step where they also observe the herd and see what you notice in observing the herd, which you might not notice anything, or you might notice, oh, this person's the leader, right? So they ask those kind of questions in the beginning. Not all the programs do that. But generally, you would be grooming the horse every single time. And then you would do other things, such as leading the horse. Like, how do you put the whole bridle and bid and everything on the horse, and then lead the horse? And then you might do obstacle courses. You might lead the horse without actually holding on to the lead, right? Without touching the horse or anything attached to the horse at all, getting the horse to follow you, which really teaches you some skills about confidence, right? And also about how you're, sort of what kind of energy you're exuding to the world, because horses can sense what you're feeling. So, right, they might be a little skittish and not wanting to follow you if you're not sure of what you're doing and you act like you're not sure of what you're doing, or if you're looking down on the ground, right? You really, if you're going, you're supposed to look in the direction you're going, and that will have the horse following you. So it really does help you with that. And you can tell if your horse is acting a certain way that maybe you should take back a step and just take a deep breath or 2 or 3 and calm yourself a little bit and then go back to what you were doing, because sometimes that's what's happening. Now, it's not always, the person's fault. Sometimes it's just the horse has a lot of energy, right? But sometimes, right, it's you. It's whoever it is that's working with the horse that might feel a little nervous or something like that, or maybe they were angry about something before they came in, and that energy is still coming off them, and the horse can sense it. And so the horse might be sort of skittering away from you and not really, standing in place and not really being helpful. But you learn the signs of when a horse is feeling good and liking what's happening, like chewing and licking and stuff like that, that those are some good signs. So it's all very exciting, and although I've not actually done the horsemanship myself, I've learned a lot about horses and people with horses, so it is a lot of fun. And I will say, the Saturday is the longer day that has a couple of things in it, right? Because that's the opening reflection and figuring out where you are at today and what your goal is for today. It's the yoga or Tai Chi, it's usually art or cooking, and then it ends with the closing reflection. The closing reflection, right, is actually a time for people if they want to talk about how they're feeling. Did you meet your goal? What are you going to do for the rest of the day with what you learned? And it really is a time to say, this is what I learned, right? And if you learn something about yourself, great. If you just learned something about how to work with the horse, great, right? It's just trying to figure out what you got out of it, and also what works for you. Did yoga feel really good for you, but art stuff didn't do anything for you, right? Like, it gives you a chance to figure out what might be helpful for you. Thank you. I think that's about it.
Thank you so much, Keri.
Oh, you're welcome. I missed a question.
Yeah, I got 3 questions.
Yes.
Yeah. When you organize this group activity, how many of your own personnel are there to do it? How many are paid people? Are there volunteer people? And do you look for volunteer people to come and work with that program? The second question is, why is it uncertain that you may run it in May or June or not?
No, we will run it in May or June. What's uncertain whether we will do April or not. So I'm not sure, because of COVID, it's been put off a little bit. So for March, we're just running the online group, so not completely sure. Right now, I'm really not completely sure whether we're gonna start the group in April or not. Now, I'm hoping to, and planning to, but will we start it or not? A couple of weeks beforehand, we'll evaluate what's going on with the COVID situation and decide whether we're really doing the in-person groups or continuing online. But in May, it should be, I think, with the numbers going down like they are, I think we should be good to go in May.
When you have this program, is it horses, tai chi, songwriting, and everything all rolled in on the same day in the same place?
No, that would be a lot. Yeah, so what it is, it's basically 2 days usually people pick. So the one day would be like the Saturday that has several things on it, which is basically the yoga. So it's one or the other, yoga or tai chi, discussion group, and either art or cooking. And then you just have the closing reflection. That's in every single Saturday. That's the longer day, which I shortened it a little bit to take lunch out. So it's now 9 to 12:30. Before we had lunch added, so it was a little bit later that it ended. So we'll probably add it back in after COVID is well and gone, because that'll be soon, right?
And how many veterans would benefit from a 2-day program?
Yeah, so the other day is what they get to pick. Either they pick one horsemanship program or they pick songwriting program.
And how many veterans does that incorporate in 2 days?
Yep, so it's six veterans at a time. We're trying to keep it to small groups so that people will be likely to talk to each other and feel a little more comfortable around each other. So that's why we're starting with the really small groups right now. Did I miss anything? Okay.
It's nice to see you doing this.
Thank you. What's that? Oh, yes. That was the other question. Thank you, Elizabeth. Okay, so Ted, I've done the budget as if everybody is being paid, just to make sure that we get in the money. We do have some people that are completely volunteering. So for instance, the yoga instructor is a complete volunteer because her husband is a veteran and her son is in the military. And she has done some training with trauma-informed yoga and also with, what's it called, warriors? Something about yoga for warriors, but I might be getting the title wrong, which is yoga for veterans that she took. So she really wants to give back to the community, so she has been offering that for free. But not everybody does. For the other people who help with songwriting, the volunteers that come in and might sing or play an instrument, we do try to get them to come in as a volunteer. Yes, Corey.
I just wanted to add, just for everybody, I do a lot of referrals to mental health programs, providers, clinicians, the whole thing. There is nothing quite like this that's being offered anywhere that I know of, but definitely not in this area. You can go to the VA, you can get your, they do trips and things. You can go to the horsemanship program and get your horsemanship. But you can't get all these things in one place other than Path to Healing from what I'm seeing. So just wanted to throw that out to you all. I've done a lot of research just in doing my job, and I haven't seen anything quite like it. So.
Thank you.
And you've done a couple of sessions already. You've gotten positive feedback from the individuals who participated, and some of them, if I understand, want to come back for a third session. And the great thing too, it's free, it's fun. And every once in a while, there's food provided, so you can't beat that.
And I mean, I guess another good thing for some people is that some people are worried what might go on their VA record, right? This doesn't have to go on your VA record unless you want it to. If you sign a release and you want the information to go there, then it can go there. Or you tell them yourself, fine, but it doesn't have to go anywhere. Since we're not using insurance, we're not using anything other than donated money, it doesn't have to go anywhere. There you go. Any more questions? And to disclose, right, Corey Ahonen and Elizabeth Riley are on my board because they are great and they are very helpful to have on my board. Thank you.